We all have moments when we can get in our own head, myself included, and a lot of people think that I'm a naturally positive person, but to be honest with you, I've just gotten really good at catching some of those unhelpful thoughts before I absolutely spiral. And I'm not going to lie, it isn't always easy, but the more you do it, the more helpful it becomes. So welcome to this new episode of Voice Notes from Samio. Today, I wanted to share some powerful reframes that I use in my daily life on a regular basis. These are the mental shifts that get me out of bed, into action, and back to feeling myself fast. So let's get into it. If you listened to or watched my last episode, you will have already heard this one. So feel free to skip number one if you have. But if you haven't, this is a big one. And I think a lot of us can be guilty of it. And it's saying I need. And what I mean by this is putting that at the front of any sort of task that you may have to do in your day-to-day life. So I am guilty of this one. I say this one a lot. And so I find myself reframing this one a lot. And this could be anything. A good example, which I gave last time as well, was for exercise. It will be, oh, I need to do this thing. And I do still say it. It's not that it's like completely lost from my vocabulary. But when it starts to feel like effort and when it feels like a chore, I like to switch it around. And so the reframe with this is instead saying, I get to do this thing. So a good example with this, just the other day, I needed to tidy the home. There it is, underlined on the needed. And it was a task that did need to be done. But I really had this energy of, I need to tidy. And the reframe there was, I get to tidy. I get to tidy my home. And so in this instance where I was really lacking that motivation and enthusiasm, I started to say, I get to tidy my home. And honestly, I felt my energy shift with it. I was tidying up and I was kind of like, you know what? I get to do this. I'm fortunate that I have this home. And I know that it sounds really cheesy. And I referenced this last time as well. It kind of can feel a little bit silly when you first start doing it. But the more you put it into practice, you'll see how it shifts that energy from obligation to gratitude. So I'm really, really big on this one and I use it a lot. And it comes up loads when I have, tasks to do, things we got to do in life. And so it can be really, really helpful. Number 2 is for my overwhelmed girlies, guys, everybody. And this is, I have so much to do. How many times are we guilty of this one? I say this one a lot. And again, I find myself reframing this one a lot. I have so much to do. I say it all the time and I have that sort of energy with it. So when I can feel myself getting a little bit overwhelmed, the to-do list is looking long, I start to think, okay, you know what? Let's be realistic here. I do have some things to do. I maybe have a few things to do, but I've done this before and I can do it again. And that in itself is the reframe. It's being real with yourself. It's being honest. We're not gaslighting ourselves here into into pretending everything's fine when the house is burning, but it's reframing it in that way of, you know what, I do have a few really important tasks I need to do here, but I have managed this before and I can do it again. And I think what this helps do is kind of allows you to regain some control because you're reminding yourself that actually you can handle this and you're more in control of the scenario than you think you are. Whereas that energy of being like, I have so much to do is kind of frantic. It feels like you're out of control. Whereas being like, you know what, I have a few things to do and I can do it because I've done this before. It's reminding yourself of what you're capable of and kind of breaking down the tasks a little bit as well, because a few sounds less overwhelming, let's say, than saying I have so much to do. And oftentimes when we do break down the key tasks, there are some things that we can actually get rid of on our to-do list and might not actually be as necessary as we think they are. And so when we allow ourselves to focus on the most important key tasks in hand and then remind ourselves that, you know what, there's a few important things I've got to get done, but I can do this. I've done it before. We're reminding ourselves that it's within our capabilities. We've done this before and we sure as heck can do it again. And number 3 is actually quite similar to number 2, but I thought each deserved their own reframe because they can be slightly different in different scenarios. And number 3, I can't handle this. It's too much. So you can reframe this one with, this is hard, but I've handled hard things before. I can figure this out one step at a time. And now what this does is, first of all, it breaks it down and reminds your brain, first and foremost, that the challenges you're facing are things that you can actually handle and overcome. And it also helps your brain recall evidence of your resilience because our brain is always always looking for evidence that it's right. So whatever you're feeding your mind, these thoughts, it's kind of going to look for evidence that that is true. So again, we're not lying to ourselves here. We're not trying to be like, it's fine, everything's going to be fine. Because as I'm sure you'll know, that doesn't always end well. But what we're doing here is reminding ourselves that, you know what, this is hard, but I can handle this and I have done it before. Straight away, your mind is going to go back to past scenarios, past events, situations where actually you have overcome hard things. And usually you are a lot more resilient than you realize. And when you recall that evidence and you're given that reminder, it can kind of bring back some of that control again and give your mind a little bit of ease. It doesn't always make the situation easier. Obviously, when we're tackling some hard, stressful situations, life likes to throw us curveballs occasionally, and it's not always ideal. But in scenarios where you are feeling overwhelmed or anxious, anxiety often likes to exaggerate future threat. And so a lot of the things that we can be worrying about, especially if they are in the future, can be over amplified. And this is our brain's natural mechanism, right? It wants to keep us safe. And so when we are in that panic mode of feeling like, I can't handle this, it's too much, by giving our minds that reframe of, you know what, this is a lot, but you can handle this because you've done this before and you can figure this out one step at a time. It really helps ground you in past proof and a reminder of your resilience. And so then it gives you a little bit of a practical focus because, like I say, your brain is always trying to figure things out. It's always looking for evidence that what you're telling it is true. So if you're telling your mind in this reframe, you know what, we can handle this, I've got this, and we can figure this out one step at a time, your brain is going to start searching for the evidence that that is true. And in that, also searching for solutions to help get you through this situation. Number 4, and this one is for my lazy girls, guys, and everyone. And if you watch my last episode, my Lazy Girls Guide to Getting Back on Track, you'll know I'm having a lazy girl summer, okay? But we're rolling at my own pace right now. Anyway, number 4 is I can't be bothered / I don't care. And the reframe with this, again, we start with honesty with ourselves. My motivation is low, but I care about how I'll feel afterwards. And if you want to add a little extra on here, you can also add one small action can change my state. And I like that little added bit actually, because it's that reminder again that sometimes it doesn't take a lot to kind of shift the state you're in, because a lot of times when we're feeling unmotivated, it's actually just a temporary emotion. And this reframe can help separate our current feelings from our long-term values. Because I think when we get stuck in the rut, it's when we have this sort of dissonance to where we want to be and how we're feeling right now. And a lot of the time we're kind of waiting for this motivation, this magical golden egg. I don't know why I'm calling it egg, but we're calling it an egg today. This magical golden egg called motivation that's just going to come in. Birth. Oh, this analogy is getting really weird. It's going to appear, okay? And then all of a sudden we'll have the motivation and we'll get crack-a-lacking and all will be well. But when we kind of wait for this to happen, as you may know, it doesn't always come. And so sometimes we have to remind ourselves that low motivation is often temporary. And this reframe reminds you that momentum can generate motivation, not the other way around. And so it may be true that you can't be bothered. And we often tell ourselves that we don't care, even when deep down we do. We're maybe just not feeling in the right emotional state. And so acknowledging that by saying, you know, my motivation feels low, but actually I do care how I'll feel afterwards. And you know what? Just one small action can change my state. It can be just what you need to give yourself that shift. And dare I say it, motivation to move forward, even if it's in a slow way. And as I always say, usually it's that first step of action that gets you rolling and actually gives you the motivation to keep going and keep pursuing the thing that you want to do or take the action that you want to take. Number 5 is what if something goes wrong? And the reframe is what if it goes right? Not gonna lie, this one does make me laugh because it does make me think of that really cheesy saying. But what if I fall? Oh, but darling, What if you fly? I don't actually know what that's from, but I remember it used to be in loads of memes back in the day. Anyway, as cheesy as this one sounds, this is a really powerful one to implement into so many things you do, because I know a lot of us can get in our own head, especially when we're trying to put ourselves out there, start something, make new friends, approach someone. There can be so many anxieties wrapped up in that. And our brain, again, it often wants to go towards the negative. And like I say, with all of these, but this one in particular, it's a constant task of like reminding yourself. And like I said at the beginning of this, people often think I'm a naturally positive person. Baby girl, this takes a lot of work. I'm not going to lie. I want to be positive, and so I pursue that way of being. But oftentimes it's easy to get in our head. It's easy to go down the route of negative spiraling. And so we have to remind ourselves of the positives. And I'm not talking about toxic positivity here. When things are bad, acknowledge your feelings, allow yourself to sit in them, have a cry, all that good stuff. But I'm just talking day to day when we need to just get through life. We need to get things done. And sometimes we can get in our own way with our negative thoughts and our little spirals. And so just reminding ourselves that actually, sometimes it's not always the worst case scenario. A lot of the times, really good things can come out of the things that we're trying to do, trying to pursue, tasks we're going to get done. Going off on a tangent here, but you get what I'm saying. So with this one, this is a kind of general one where we're worrying like, oh, what if something goes wrong? And so with this reframe of what if it goes right? What if this thing that, we're looking to do, looking to start, this person we're looking to approach, like, what if it is the best case scenario? And so it can kind of help give you that confidence to pursue the thing or to go after the thing and really bring you out of your shell. Like I say, it's not a one-time fix, and this can take a lot of reminding yourself. But again, your brain is going to search for the evidence. It's going to think of the positive outcomes as opposed to the negative and give you that little push in the right direction that you need. And if you're still not convinced, you can add on the end of this one, I'll handle whatever comes, I always do. And this is really helpful because if you've still got that little negative devil on your shoulder going, oh, but you could mess up, you could embarrass yourself here, people might laugh at you, you might look silly, it might be rubbish, no one will care, all of that, so on and so forth, insert scenario, insert negative self-talk, having that reminder that, what's the worst that can happen, and actually you can handle this because you always do. Do you know what I mean? You've made it this far and really good things could come out of this scenario. So this is one that I use for myself a lot because, we all get in our heads occasionally. We all can go to the negative of what if something goes wrong, but just reframing it and just with simply saying, what if this goes right? And I can handle this either way. It can be so powerful and so helpful. It can help turn worry into excitement. And a lot of those fears and those anxieties have the same components of excitement, the adrenaline, the sweaty palms, anticipation. And so reframing this can kind of put you more into the excitement mode. And it's all just that reframe of your perspective. And this helps rewire your brain to expect possibility and not disaster. Number 6 is I'm so behind. And the reframe is I'm not behind. I'm exactly where I need to be to learn what I need to learn. This challenges the toxic productivity lie that you should always be ahead. And it reframes your timeline as valid and useful, not broken or delayed. And I know a lot of us can use this feeling behind in different areas of life, whether it's tackling your to-do list or it's on the timeline that society has set for you in life. But either way, this still stands. Whatever point you're at in your life, if you're feeling like you're behind, this can be a really helpful reframe. And I know it might be slightly different in a work sense because there's nothing worse than that frantic feeling of like, oh, I actually am behind. But if that is the case, there's oftentimes a reason for that. And you are going to learn something from this experience along the way, whether it's that you need to manage your workload going forward, if you need to ask for more help, if you have a team, if you need to spread your tasks between people, or the lessons could even be that this isn't where you want to be anymore because it it constantly makes you feel stressed. And even on a personal level, if you're feeling behind in terms of a timeline, again, that reframe of telling yourself, I'm not behind, I'm exactly where I need to be to learn what I need to learn, can actually be a lot more empowering. And it reinforces the idea that your journey is not linear and it doesn't have to go in a particular way. And actually, where you're at right now might be exactly where you need to be to learn some of the biggest life lessons to get you to where you need to go in future. And I know how it is in life. It's not always where you want to be in the moment, but oftentimes we can look back and think, you know what, I'm so happy that this happened, or I needed to be in that space right then because I wouldn't know the things I know now. And so in those moments when we are getting in our own head and we are thinking, oh, I feel behind, whether it's with the timeline or the to-do list, and just reframing it and understanding that actually there's a lot that I can be learning from this scenario. And you might not always want to hear it in the moment, and you might not always feel it in the moment, but there's always going to be something that you take away from this present scenario moving forward. And we also have to remind ourselves that forward, and I'll use air quotation marks for that, isn't the only direction that matters, because there's so much to learn along the way, whatever our journey looks like. Number 7, and my final one on this list, is I don't have time. I think most of us are probably guilty of this one. I know I certainly am. This kind of like, oh, I don't have time. And I often say it like that, like, oh, I don't have time. And sometimes it's actually because you don't want to do that thing and it's not a priority. And if that's the case, admit that to yourself, like, this is not a priority right now. But when it is the things that you do truly care about, and the saying I don't have time is coming from more of a place of frustration, as if our time is being taken away from us and we don't have enough of it. A great reframe for this is I can make time for what really matters, even in small ways. What this does is reduces that all or nothing trap and reminds you of agency. And sometimes when we want to do a particular thing, it doesn't have to look the way that we might have imagined. So I'll use working out as an example, because your girl likes to use exercise as an example in every single episode. A lot of the times we're fed these perfect workout routines, you know, going to the gym 4 times a week, running, Pilates, whatever, insert activity here, eating right, all of this. And a lot of us, myself included, can fall into that all or nothing trap. And so when things get busy, and I talked about this in my last episode, things can fall off and we can easily start to tell ourselves we don't have time. Yeah, maybe you don't have time to go to the gym 4 times a week, do running, prep your meals, and have this sort of like perfect athlete's routine. But can you make time for 10 minutes out of your day? Again, in my last episode, I mentioned the 10-minute rule, something I applied when I was wanting to get back into fitness and movement. I just said, you know what, I'm just going to do 10 minutes a day. That's all I'm going to do. And over time, as I had more time and I had more energy and stamina, I built that up. And so sometimes it's just stripping things back a little bit. And what this reframe does is gives ourselves more agency and makes us feel more empowered. Like, that saying of I don't have time, it feels really frantic, doesn't it? It feels like, oh, like I don't have time. Or at least it does for me, because that's usually when I'm saying it, when I feel frantic and I feel like, often I think it comes from a place of like feeling a little bit angry and like, oh, I'm being robbed of this time. And sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes it's actually often my own fault because I'm not managing my time well and I'm not actually prioritizing the things that are most important, whether that's out of my tasks or what's most important to me. And I think that often comes down to choosing what's easeful over what's most important on the task of to-do list. That could be a whole topic for another day. Let's refocus. But anyway, the reframe, the reframe of I can make time for what truly matters, even in small ways, is a great way to allow ourselves to show up and do the thing, even imperfectly. 5 focused minutes of something are better than waiting for the perfect window that may never come. And so this can be applied to all areas. And it's something I often have to remind myself of, because I use this too much as an excuse, and things can get perpetually pushed into the distance when I tell myself I don't have time. And actually, I do have time, or I can prioritize it if I really want to. It's just figuring out how to implement it into my life and into my routine, depending on how much I need to do with it and how often. And so allowing yourself to do things differently and show up even in the smallest of ways can be so, so helpful. That's it. That's all I've got for you for today's episode. Obviously, these aren't a fix-all, cure-all, whatever you want to call it, but these are things that have really helped me over the years, and they're great to have in your toolkit. We're all going to get stressed, overwhelmed, anxious at times, and sometimes, I'm not going to lie, the reframe just ain't going to cut it. But I'd often say when we are feeling stuck in certain cycles, and if it's the same thing coming up over and over again, there might be something more that you need to address there and some underlying things. So I always say never brush over things. If there are things that you really need to acknowledge and work through, it's always important to do that. But I think for some of the smaller things and some of the kind of negative habits we can get into, these can be great for kind of reframing and reminding ourselves that actually, you know what, it's not as bad as our anxious brain wants to try and tell us it is. And we've done these things before, we can handle it again, and we can do this. You've got this. So that's it. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode. Let me know in the comments down below if you have any reframes that you like to use in your day-to-day life. I would love to know. If you are listening on Apple or Spotify, I would love if you could leave me a 5-star rating and review. It's so, so helpful, and I really, really appreciate it. And don't forget to subscribe, and then we can do this again soon. As always, I have thoroughly enjoyed chatting your ear off, and I will speak to you next time.